I've had a whole bunch of people asking me. I help especially women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s learn a truly healthy way of eating that transforms everything and resets our weight back down and really revitalizes our body in so many ways. It's awesome. And I have so many people ask me, well, what are you going to tell me I have to give up? And I totally understand this question. And I thought, people will ask about, what about this? What about that? What about this other thing? And instead of trying to kind of spray answers at all those things, which I find is not really helpful, I'd like to give a perspective, how I look at this. Almost everybody struggles with this these days. Like over 80% of us are overweight or obese, and the more we're dieting, the worse that's getting, and people are very frustrated and unhappy, and it's not everyone, but it's a majority of us now. So the question of, can I eat this? Is it okay to drink that, etc., is an understandable question in these times, partly because there is so much in our food environment that is not really good for us, but is highly pleasing, highly promoted, highly processed, right? All these HPs. But when we think about losing weight, we're used to dieting. We're used to ideas of you're going to have to restrict these certain things when you're dieting or trying to lose weight. And it often feels like deprivation. It feels like frustration. It feels unsustainable. And for me personally, that was a big reason I kept putting off making real changes to my eating, because trying to eat less to lose weight, which is the idea that I was raised with my whole life, and doctors said and dietitians said, etc., restricting certain foods and drinks for a period of time felt onerous. I often felt hungry. I often felt deprived, like poor me, that I don't get to eat these things that I love. And then, willpower is a finite resource, so it would run out, and then these approaches would let me down. I would not get sustainable weight loss. I did okay. I did fine with my weight until my 40s. And then all the things that I'd been trying and doing that seemed to work in the past weren't working anymore. And it just felt frustrating and miserable. So we want to stop doing things for weight loss that feel frustrating and miserable. It doesn't mean, well, I really enjoy potato chips and candy bars, so I'm going to eat as much of that as I want. That's like the other extreme, right? So knowing we probably can't do either of those extremes of feeling totally deprived or feeling like I just need to be as indulgent as possible. Eating in a way that isn't enjoyable, that doesn't give good results, that is unsustainable. That's like the definition of unsustainable. And then I've been researching all of what's actually happening in our bodies with the way of eating that we're doing. And that's another reason why it's unsustainable. We don't have time to go into all that today. But we end up in this place of, I'd rather eat whatever I feel like eating, what I enjoy, than feel hungry and miserable. Yes. I'm with you. The thing is, that's a false choice. There are other options besides those two choices. It doesn't have to be that way. Here's a terrible choice. There's a terrible choice. I'll do the one that gives me the most pleasure, or I'll do the one I think might give me weight loss, even though it doesn't seem to be working anymore. Terrible choices, right? I had strong attachments to certain foods and drinks, and ways that I approached eating and drinking anymore, like a relationship with eating and drinking. And my attachments, like I would get really scared if I thought, oh, I'm going to have to give up my wine, right? Oh, that's going to suck. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to have to eat less. I'm going to have to be starving. All these ideas that actually were wrong really got very much in the way of changing my eating habits. And it was only having this big wake-up call of starting to work in nursing homes and going, if I don't change something, that's where I'm headed. That, like, I got to get a little bit honest with myself, right? That made me start looking for, well, what can I do? Because the information that I'm getting from the popular media is not leading me to good results at all. It had become my habit to indulge in the most highly pleasurable food and drink on a regular basis, and I thought of it as special. And then I would spend time and money prioritizing health food stores and health food aisles and researching supplements and getting pasture raised eggs and grass fed beef and drinking the higher quality wines and buying expensive chocolates, etc., looking for the super highly pleasurable stuff, but a way that I could feel good about it, that I felt like it was healthy. And I would search the latest tips on how to lose weight. And I did the paleo diet for a while, and I did Weight Watchers for a while. And those seemed to work for a while, and searching out the healthier alternatives. And all of those, I'm going to find the healthier alternatives. I'm going to do this diet or that diet. I'm going to restrict my calories. I'm going to search for the latest tip. These are all great ways to end up with terrible results. It just started getting clear to me, like all those things that seemed to work. Now I've been doing them for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, and they're not working anymore, right? Maybe they were never quite working the way I thought, but everything changed in my 40s and nothing was working anymore. And this big wake-up call scared me. I found out the people in the nursing homes are not in their 80s and 90s. Most of them are in their 60s and 70s. And when I started researching, how do I help them get out of here? Because that's what they all asked me. Can you help me get out of here? I don't belong here. They all had conditions that had taken them past the point of even being able to live independently anymore. And it scared me, frankly, right? I fully relate to the worry about what am I going to have to give up? But I know it held me back from discovering how to eat in a truly healthy way that would transform everything for me. And I didn't need to be scared of being deprived and miserable. That fear and worry, that attachment to these special foods and drinks actually was holding me back from finding what works, what actually makes my body happy and healthy. I used to argue, like, I don't know who I was arguing with, like this, I should be able to have this. I should be able to have this once in a while. It shouldn't be a big deal. Who am I arguing with? So I started thinking, what if you actually just try to find out what's actually good for your body? I remembered that I had studied and learned a lot about evidence-based practices and how to go to the research and find answers that actually are proven to work over and over. And so that's what I eventually did. I decided this is scary. You know, if you get really honest with yourself, your future doesn't look as, you know, I'm not going to be hiking in the mountains in my 80s the way I think, if I already can't do that in my 50s, right? Unless I change something real and substantial, right? So I want to offer a perspective to you that became super helpful to me, which is I decided to assume some of my habits are keeping me stuck. Right? There's something in my habits, even though they make sense to me, I've invested a lot of energy in developing them. All of us feel like we have to be experts on eating because we do it 3 times a day. But I decided to assume that some of what I was doing must be wrong, must be adding up to poor results. And the more I looked at the research, the more it started to get clear. I decided to assume that some of my beliefs about what's good to eat and how is good to eat must be wrong. I must need to change some of my beliefs and some of my habits to get different results. And so when I started going into the research, I decided the popular media is not helping me. I'm starting to think there's a lot of misinformation in there that is serving the people that are selling the magazines and the books and is not serving the population. When I look at the results in our world, something is not going right here. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And it was getting worse and worse for me. So I decided I'm going to science the shit out of this, right? I quit looking at the popular media. Actually, the popular media was often confirming what I wanted to believe. My special foods and drinks that I'm in love with, that I love, are not that bad. They're okay. It's fine to have them as long as I don't overdo them. I can make up for any excess today by restricting tomorrow. There's no good foods or bad foods. Everything is fine in moderation. All these ideas I'd grown up with and I had repeated over and over, and my friends and the articles had repeated to me, I decided I'm going to question whether those are right. And one of the big ones that I was saying to myself all the time, this is a treat, it's special, and I deserve it. I decided to question that. What am I telling myself I deserve. If this is a food or drink that causes me stress, that causes disease in my body, that causes more rapid decline in my body, do I want to be saying I deserve it? So it started getting important to me to tease apart what are the things that really serve my body, that feed my cells and my organs and my systems and make them as well as possible for as long as possible, and what are the things that are actually harmful to my cells and my organs and my systems and my stress, that make me more stressed about my eating. So I decided to search for evidence about what actually works for eating and health and weight. And I'm going to try not to argue with it that I know better than what the evidence says, right? I took my training and I chose to be curious about, as I looked at all the research data, what is actually adding up predictably and reliably for optimal health and naturally slender body weight, even for women after 40 and 50 and 60. And every time I started arguing with the research, no, I don't agree with you. That's not what I have experienced. I brought myself back. Just stay curious. Stay open to learning something that's different from what you already believe, right? And then I can start to I can find the answers, and I can choose to eat things that hurt me, or I can choose to eat things that help me. But I'm not going to stay in the dark anymore. I'm not going to just search for answers that prove what I already know. That is a very, very typical human thinking error, confirmation bias, right? So I already know that I love this thing. I'm going to search for proof. I don't say it to myself that consciously, but we do. We search for proof that we're right. So I got really determined. No, you're going to bring your scientific discipline to this. You're going to not allow yourself to stay in the dark anymore. You're going to look for what the truth is. I'm not going to allow myself to be manipulated. The food industry is spending $14 billion a year on marketing, on promoting what turns out to be mostly more than half of our food is highly processed, non-nutritious, food-like substances that aren't really food, that can be really toxic to our system, and making them as addictive as possible and putting words on the package that make us feel good about it. That started making me mad. The alcohol industry is spending over $1 billion every year to tell us, this poison, it's not that bad. It actually might be good for you, right? So I'm going to guard against that kind of the marketing that this bad thing isn't that bad. I'm going to guard against being manipulated by my culture. Like, oh, you're upset about something? Let me bring over a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates, right? And I'm going to guard against my own thinking errors and my desire to keep my beliefs all together the way I built them so far. And it took effort to stay in that kind of open-minded space. I had to keep returning to my scientific discipline when I wanted to argue with the research. But I can tell you those efforts to just go for the truth, even if at first it upsets you, even if at first it doesn't seem right, go for the truth. And those efforts changed my life in such big ways. All these disease processes and symptoms that had been going for years in my body really went away. My body healed so well. The excess weight I'd been carrying for a long time fell off quite effortlessly. I just really found clear answers about how to eat and drink to get dream results, right? My body, not only did I lose the weight, but my body reset my weight set point back to a much healthier weight that's more like back to college weight. And all these symptoms of illness and decline evaporated. And I'll just tell you a couple of fundamental principles. One is I learned how to eat an abundance, way more than you think, of the right things, of the things that actually give my body the best chance to function as well as possible. And I started doing that, and at the same time avoiding the highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. And it started adding up to, and then I studied, well, why is this making such a difference, right? It made this massive difference for me. I'm observing thousands of people for whom this way of eating is making a massive difference. And I am studying, well, why is it? What are the mechanisms in there that might be making this so? But the fundamental point for me is it works. And something like 95 to 99% of the things out there are not working for healthy, sustainable weight loss. People are making themselves more sick. They're slowing their metabolism. They're losing weight in a way that causes them to gain even more. UCLA researchers said we'd be better off never dieting because it's actually making things worse. It's the best predictor of weight gain over time. So all these things get to heal when I learn how to eat right. And it's also, I feel so much more calm and alive. I hear this from Slender for Good clients all the time. Getting really clear how to eat and how not to eat, and not looking for the latest tip every day frees up hours of time and energy. Like, we don't have to engage in emotional eating anymore. If we've been experiencing addiction, I didn't think of myself as a food addict or an alcoholic or any of those things, but I was experiencing this big excitement and this stress and worry and attachment. And like, if I try to avoid that food, I just want it more and more. So if we've been having any of that kind of experience, we can become liberated from that. So the benefits of knowing really clearly and specifically how to eat to help our body be as healthy as possible are awesome. I don't use the word awesome without actually thinking, it incites a sense of awe in me to find what actually makes my body thoroughly happy, that actually heals my body, and to just be feeding it that 3 times a day, every day. I feel in awe about this opportunity and these insights that have changed my life. And we can only be able to discover what actually makes a difference. What are the things that actually make a difference when we're willing to be open to some ideas that challenge what we believe already, what we've believed for a long time about what's good to eat. When we learn how to eat in abundance of truly highly nutritious whole foods, not what the food industry is promoting, not the shelf-stable, highly processed stuff with packaging that says how awesome it is, right? But actually learning to eat what's proven to distinguish between healthy aging and much less healthy aging and disease. So we get open to the possibility that some of the food and drink we feel very attached to may not be serving us. Now, in my extended program, I teach my clients the exact specific eating approach I discovered in the research, and it's working for thousands and thousands of people every day. And I keep following the research to see, is there anything new? What am I understanding better about why this works so well? Because it helps my clients too. It helps me and it helps my clients to understand why. Why does this make such a difference? This eating approach even has very specific guidelines about quantities of different foods to eat to get sustainable weight loss. And my clients are always telling me, I'm shocked at how much I'm eating. I thought I had to eat less and less and less. And that really is not the answer. And then it has very specific guidelines about how to transition from weight loss eating once you get to your goal weight to maintenance eating. And that's a little bit of a stage where a lot of people fall down, and it doesn't have to happen that way. There's clarity about how to do this. So when people ask me, can I eat this? Can I eat that? Are you going to tell me I can't eat or drink this? I've learned not to try to answer that in a one-off kind of way. There are hundreds and hundreds of those, right? And so learning fundamental principles and guidelines that make a real difference is way more valuable than me answering your one question about, can I eat this? Can I eat that? There are things that that the research says most of us are going to do far better if we just take it off the table, just don't include it in our diet. There are things that most of us need to eat a lot more. Most of my clients, I need to eat 4 to 10 times more of that than I thought, right? To actually get great results. And then there's in between things that, like, it doesn't work for me, it becomes a problem for me, but it doesn't become a problem for you. It could be a good thing on your diet and not a good thing on mine, right? But our whole understanding of how to eat, what's good to eat, where to get the answers for that, and how to lose weight are just so wrong. If you would like to know more about what am I talking about when I say that, I do offer a masterclass. Type masterclass in the comments, email me, somehow communicate to me that you'd like a copy of that, because it took me a long time and a lot of training to find these answers. And it's taken me a long time to figure out, how do I put them together so people go, hello, light bulb goes off, I am a changed person. And that's what this masterclass does. So I will be in these kinds of talks, I'll always allude to certain fundamentals that make a massive difference. And many people find these ideas really insightful and transformative. And when it comes to questions and worries about what I have to let go of, do I have to let go of it forever? Am I going to feel deprived? I invite you to notice, to think about that differently. Do I feel these worries about foods that are without a doubt nutritious whole foods? Like if I love beets or tomatoes and I go to the doctor today and the doctor says, "Ooh, you have a particular genetic condition, you have to go off beets altogether." I might need to do something different in my habits, but would I be really upset and mad and ready to kill him? No. Do I only feel that kind of attachment, like you can't take this away from me, that kind of anxiety, oh God, what if she says I have to give up this? Do I only feel that about foods that are actually not foods, that are actually not good for me, that I know are probably not good for me if I do too much of them, and I'm just trying to figure out how do I not do too much? Because that can be something that keeps us in a state of attachment and anxiety and stress over eating, that I would love you to experience what it's like to feel liberated from that. I mean, it makes me want to cry, how much freer I feel just eating what's good for me every day, how much more time and energy I have, along with I can sleep well, right? All these things that weren't going well that now just feel so natural and normal in my body, right? So I take a whole different attitude toward food and eating and drinking now. I want to enjoy it. I want to feel pleasure from it. I want to feel energized and nourished and ready to go do something. That's what we feel like when we eat real food. I want to feel confident that I'm giving my body what it needs and feel proud of that. And I want to have the rest of my time not to be obsessed about food. So I'm going to view anything I feel super attached to, defensive about, right? I'm going to view that with suspicion now. Wait a minute. Is that a sign that that actually might not be good for me? That actually might be keeping me in some kind of anxious and obsessed state that I actually might not want associated with food? So instead of asking, can I have that? Is she going to make me give that up? Am I going to feel deprived? Maybe ask yourself, will this serve my body, or will it be better for me to look for something else that will actually serve my body? So my encouragement to you, I'm going to close. This is a little bit long and intense. I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Strive to eat a lot more highly nutritious whole foods than you have been, maybe a lot. And fill yourself up on them and observe, how does my body react when I eat this? How does my mental state, psychologically, how do I react to this? Does it get me super excited, or does it just give me kind of a mild, calm sense of pleasure and no stress? And observe your reaction to the special foods, the treats that you feel very attached to. Are they causing stress in your life? Do you find that you eat more of them than you mean to, drink more than you mean to? Do you eat them for more emotional reasons than nourishment reasons? In which case, they may be pushing out the nutritious foods. There's a lot of research suggesting that one of the reasons 80% of us are overweight and developing these metabolic conditions that go along with that is that we're living in a low nutrition world. We're eating and drinking in a low nutrition world. So I was making room for all kinds of non-nutritious special things It's crowding out the nutritious things. And it's the combination of these two problems that is causing so much trouble, is how I see it. So I hope these ideas help loosen up your thinking and your beliefs and leave room for other information and insights that will really make a difference. If you ask me, can I have this? I'll say, yes, you can eat whatever you want. But if you're asking, can I have this without any consequences? We might want to search into the research to find the answers to that. Does that make sense? All right, I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think.